Just saying this. Testing, testing, test. 3, poo.
As I grew, my knowledge of my first language, Spanish, did not. As I grew, I forced myself to speak my first language less and less. As I grew, I did everything I could to make my first language my second. My second language had been English, learned through the American education system, learned through the media, learned through the outside world. I found myself craving the outside world once I was slightly exposed to it. I was never really sure what caused this imbalance of a preference towards being American than being Mexican. I was never really sure as to why I would be embarrassed to speak Spanish or to be embarrassed for being around my Spanish-speaking family in public as I grew up. I was never really sure what made me think it was okay to forget my native tongue. Yet, I allowed it to happen. I eventually found out that this was a problem and not a solution. It was a problem because I could only communicate with certain family members to a certain extent. It was a problem because I could not understand certain music. And it was a problem because I could communicate with less and less people. The anxiety of not knowing my first language is what motivated me to pick it up again. I began to only speak to my mom and to my family in the language of Spanish. I began to only speak Spanish at home. If I were to speak English, it would be with someone that could not speak Spanish or at school. I found myself more connected to my family, to my friends, and to people. Spanish had opened up a second world in which I had partially known, and I immediately fell in love with this world. I found myself speaking more Spanish than English as time went on. But then in August of 2023, I had moved across the country for college and found myself in a household with no one else who speaks Spanish. In order to stay connected with myself and my heritage, I began listening to more Spanish music. I began reading Spanish books, and I also began watching Spanish television. These methods were very helpful, for the effort of trying to stay connected kept me connected. In my America, it is viewed through a Mexican lens. It is viewed through a Spanish-speaking lens, for I could stay connected to my people, to my family, and to myself.